Chapter 1. Chapter 1. The Unlikely Contest. The sun had barely risen over Willow Creek, casting a golden hue across the sleepy town. In the previous chapter, we witnessed the unexpected arrival of the traveling carnival, which had stirred excitement and curiosity among the townsfolk. The vibrant colors of the tents and the sweet scent of cotton candy lingered in the air, igniting a sense of nostalgia for simpler times. As the townspeople buzzed with anticipation, a peculiar announcement echoed through the square. An archery contest was to be held, promising glory and a hefty prize for the victor. Little did they know, this contest would set the stage for an unforgettable day. Brad Thompson stood at the edge of the town square, his heart racing with a mix of excitement and trepidation. He was a quirky young man, known for his adventurous spirit and penchant for the absurd. With tousled brown hair and a pair of oversized glasses that seemed to magnify his wide, expressive eyes, he was a familiar sight around Willow Creek. Today, however, he felt a surge of determination that pushed him to step outside his comfort zone. He had never held a bow before, let alone aimed at a target, but the thought of competing in the archery contest ignited a spark within him. "Are you really going to do this?" his best friend, Mia, asked, her voice laced with skepticism as she leaned against the wooden fence that bordered the square. Her long, dark hair danced in the gentle breeze, and her green eyes sparkled with mischief. "You do realize that archery is not just about looking cool, right?" Brad chuckled, adjusting his glasses nervously. "Come on, Mia. How hard can it be? It's just pulling back a string and letting go. Plus, think of the glory. I could be the hero of Willow Creek." Mia raised an eyebrow, crossing her arms. "Or you could be the guy who accidentally shoots someone in the foot. Remember the last time you tried something new? The paintball incident." Okay, that was a fluke," he protested, a sheepish grin spreading across his face. "Besides, I've watched enough movies to know how to aim. It's all about focus and, zen or something." "Right, because zen is what you need when you're aiming at an apple on someone's head," she replied, her tone teasing yet laced with genuine concern. "Just promise me you'll be careful." "I promise," he said, though a flicker of doubt crept into his mind. He had always been the adventurous type, but this felt different. The stakes were higher, and the potential for embarrassment loomed large. Yet, as he watched the townsfolk gather, their laughter and chatter filling the air, he felt an undeniable pull to join in the festivities. As the contest began, the atmosphere crackled with excitement. Colorful banners fluttered in the breeze, and the scent of popcorn wafted through the square, mingling with the earthy aroma of freshly cut grass. Participants lined up, each one more confident than the last, their bows gleaming in the sunlight. Brad stood at the back of the line, his heart pounding in his chest as he observed the seasoned archers, their postures poised and assured. "Next up, Brad Thompson," the announcer called, his voice booming over the crowd. The laughter and chatter faded into a hush, and all eyes turned toward him. Brad's stomach dropped. "Here goes nothing," he muttered under his breath, forcing himself to step forward. The crowd's gaze felt like a spotlight, illuminating every flaw and insecurity he had ever harbored. He approached the makeshift stage, where a wooden target stood proudly, an apple perched precariously atop a mannequin's head. "Just aim for the apple," he whispered to himself, gripping the bow with clammy hands. The weight of the bow felt foreign, and he struggled to find his footing. He took a deep breath, trying to channel the zen he had so confidently mentioned earlier. "Focus, Brad. You've got this," he murmured, but his mind raced with doubts. What if he missed? What if he hit the mannequin instead? The thought sent a shiver down his spine. "Come on, Brad. You can do it," Mia shouted from the sidelines, her voice cutting through the tension. Her encouragement was a lifeline, and he glanced at her, finding solace in her unwavering support. With a shaky exhale, he knocked the arrow and drew back the string, feeling the tension in his muscles. The crowd held its breath, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. He focused on the apple, the vibrant red contrasting sharply against the pale skin of the mannequin's neck. Just let it fly, he thought, but as he released the string, a sudden gust of wind swept through the square. The arrow veered off course, soaring wildly through the air. Gasps erupted from the crowd, and Brad's heart sank as he watched the arrow fly past the target, missing the apple entirely. Instead, it found its mark on the mannequin's neck, the arrow striking with a sickening thud. The head of the mannequin bobbed precariously before toppling to the ground, rolling to a stop at the feet of a stunned onlooker. Silence enveloped the square, the laughter and cheers replaced by a collective gasp of disbelief. "Oh no," Brad whispered, his face burning with embarrassment. He stood frozen, his mind racing as he processed the chaos he had just unleashed. The crowd erupted into laughter, some clutching their sides, while others pointed at him, their amusement palpable. "Nice shot, Brad," Mia called out, her laughter ringing through the air. "You really nailed it." "Shut up," he shot back, though he couldn't help but crack a smile. The absurdity of the situation was too much to bear, and he found himself laughing along with the crowd, despite the embarrassment that threatened to swallow him whole. As the laughter subsided, Brad stepped down from the stage, his cheeks still flushed. He had come to Willow Creek's archery contest seeking glory, but instead, he had become the town's latest source of entertainment. Yet, as he walked back to Mia, he felt a strange sense of camaraderie with the townsfolk. They were all in this together, sharing in the joy of the moment, and somehow, that made it all worthwhile. "See, you're a natural," Mia teased, nudging him playfully. "Just not in the way you expected." Yeah, he replied, shaking his head. "Next time, I'll aim for the apple. I promise." As the contest continued, Brad found himself swept up in the festivities. He cheered for the other participants, their successes and failures echoing his own. The laughter and camaraderie of the crowd enveloped him like a warm embrace, and he realized that perhaps it wasn't about winning or losing, but about the shared experience of being part of something larger than himself. Chapter 2. The Hot Air Balloon Adventure. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over Willow Creek as the echoes of laughter and cheers from the archery contest faded into the distance. Brad, still reeling from his earlier mishap, where he had inadvertently shot the head off a neck instead of the apple, found himself standing in the town square, a mix of embarrassment and exhilaration swirling within him. He had never intended to become the town's laughingstock, but the thrill of the contest had ignited something within him, a spark of adventure that he couldn't ignore. "Hey, Brad!" a voice called out, pulling him from his thoughts. It was Lila, his eccentric friend with a wild mane of curly hair and an infectious smile. She was waving enthusiastically, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "You're not going to sulk here all day, are you? I have something much more exciting planned." "What could possibly be more exciting than shooting arrows at fruit?" Brad replied, raising an eyebrow, though he couldn't help but grin at her enthusiasm. "Oh, just a little hot air balloon ride," she said, her voice dripping with playful sarcasm. "You know, the usual." Brad's heart raced at the thought. "A hot air balloon? You're kidding, right?" "Not at all. Come on." Lila grabbed his hand, her grip firm and reassuring. "I promise it'll be fun. Besides, I need someone to help me with the, well, let's just say it is a bit unconventional." As they walked toward the edge of town, Brad's curiosity piqued. Lila had a knack for the whimsical, and her inventions often bordered on the absurd. He had seen her transform everyday objects into fantastical creations, but a hot air balloon powered by words. That was a new one. They reached a clearing where a colorful balloon lay deflated on the ground, its vibrant fabric a patchwork of reds, yellows, and blues. Lila began to unpack a collection of odd-looking gadgets and a small, vintage typewriter. "Okay, so here's the deal," she said, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "This balloon runs on the energy of storytelling. The more imaginative and engaging the story, the higher we'll go." Brad chuckled, shaking his head in disbelief. "You're serious? You think my storytelling can actually lift us into the sky?" "Absolutely. Just think of it as a challenge." "You've got to channel your inner bard," she replied, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. "And I'll be your audience." "Ready. Ready as I'll ever be," he said, feeling a mix of apprehension and thrill. He had always loved spinning tales, but this was different. The stakes were higher. Literally. As Lila began to inflate the balloon, the fabric rustled and crackled in the gentle breeze. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the field, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming wildflowers. Brad took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. "Okay, here goes nothing," he said, stepping closer to the typewriter. He placed his fingers on the keys, feeling the cool metal beneath his touch. "Once upon a time, in a land not so far away, there lived a brave knight named Sir Cedric." As he spoke, the balloon began to rise slowly, the fabric catching the wind and filling with air. Lila watched with wide eyes, her excitement palpable. "Yes. Keep going." Brad's voice grew stronger, fueled by the thrill of the moment. Sir Cedric was on a quest to find the fabled crystal of dreams, set to grant the heart's deepest desire. But he was not alone. A fierce dragon guarded the treasure, its scales glimmering like emeralds in the sunlight. With each word, the balloon soared higher, the ground below shrinking into a patchwork of greens and browns. Brad's imagination took flight, and he felt a rush of exhilaration as they ascended into the sky. The view was breathtaking. The town of Willow Creek sprawled beneath them, its quaint houses and winding streets a tapestry of life. "Look at that!" Lila exclaimed, pointing toward the horizon. "You can see the river winding through the valley." Brad paused his storytelling, momentarily captivated by the beauty surrounding them. The river shimmered like a silver ribbon, and the distant mountains loomed majestically, their peaks kissed by the last rays of sunlight. "It's incredible," he breathed, feeling a sense of freedom he had never experienced before. "Now, back to the story," Lila urged, her eyes sparkling with delight. "What happens next?" "Right." Brad cleared his throat, diving back into the tale. As Sir Cedric approached the dragon's lair, he realized he would need more than just bravery to defeat the beast. He needed a clever plan. Just then, a sudden flurry of wings interrupted him. A flock of birds, startled by the balloon's ascent, swooped dangerously close, their cries echoing in the air. Brad's heart raced as he instinctively ducked, the birds flapping wildly around them. "Lila! Watch out!" he shouted, gripping the edge of the basket as the birds veered away at the last moment, their feathers brushing against the fabric of the balloon. "Hold on!" Lila shouted, her laughter mingling with the chaos. "This is all part of the adventure." As the birds flew off into the distance, Brad couldn't help but laugh, the thrill of the unexpected adding to the excitement of their journey. Okay. Sir Cedric had to think quickly. He remembered the ancient wisdom of the forest creatures. With renewed energy, he continued weaving his tale, the balloon gliding smoothly through the air. They floated above the landscape, the world below becoming a blur of colors and shapes. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, and the air grew cooler, filled with the scent of evening dew. Sir Cedric devised a plan, Brad narrated, his voice steady and confident. He called upon the wise old owl, who shared secrets of the dragon's weakness. With this knowledge, Cedric approached the lair once more, ready to face his fears. Lila leaned closer, her eyes wide with anticipation. What happens next? Does he defeat the dragon? Ah, but that's the twist, Brad said, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. Instead of fighting, Cedric offered the dragon a deal. He proposed a contest of wits, a riddle that would determine who was truly the strongest. As he spoke, the balloon began to sway gently, the wind carrying them higher still. The ground below was now a distant memory, and the stars began to twinkle in the twilight sky. Brad felt a sense of connection with Lila, their laughter mingling in the air, their spirits soaring alongside the balloon. But as the story unfolded, a flicker of doubt crept into his mind. What if he couldn't keep the balloon afloat? What if his words weren't enough? Chapter 3. The Apple Orchard. As the hot air balloon gently swayed in the crisp autumn breeze, Brad and Lila shared a moment of exhilaration, their laughter mingling with the rustling leaves below. Just moments ago, they had been soaring high above Willow Creek, the town shrinking into a patchwork of colors beneath them. Brad's heart raced with the thrill of their whimsical adventure, but it was the unexpected mishap at the archery contest that still played in his mind, a reminder of how unpredictably life could unfold. With a grin, he recalled the look on the judge's face when he had accidentally shot the head off a neck instead of the apple. Lila, ever the optimist, had laughed so hard she nearly toppled out of the basket. Now, as the balloon descended, the sprawling apple orchard came into view, a vibrant sea of red and green. The sweet scent of ripe apples wafted up to greet them, mingling with the earthy aroma of fallen leaves. "This is perfect," Lila exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Let's land there." With a gentle thud, the balloon touched down on a patch of soft grass, surrounded by rows of apple trees heavy with fruit. Brad hopped out first, his feet sinking into the cool earth, and turned to help Lila down. She landed gracefully, her laughter echoing in the stillness of the orchard, and together they took a moment to soak in the beauty around them. "Look at all these apples," Brad said, his voice filled with wonder as he reached up to pluck a shiny red fruit from a nearby branch. The apple gleamed in the sunlight, its surface smooth and inviting. He took a bite, the crisp flesh bursting with sweetness, and closed his eyes in delight. "This is better than any candy." Lila giggled, her hair catching the sunlight like spun gold. "You're such a child sometimes, Brad. But I can't blame you. These are amazing." She picked an apple of her own, her fingers brushing against his as she did so. A spark of electricity danced between them, and for a moment, the world around them faded, leaving only the two of them in the orchard. "Let's see who can pick the most apples," Brad challenged, his competitive spirit ignited. "Loser has to tell a secret." "Deal," Lila replied, her eyes narrowing playfully. "But I'm warning you, I'm a pro at this." They scattered among the trees, laughter ringing out as they raced to fill their baskets. The orchard was alive with the sounds of nature. The rustle of leaves, the distant chirping of birds, and the occasional thud of an apple falling to the ground. Each time Brad reached for a particularly high branch, he felt the thrill of the chase, the adrenaline of competition fueling his every move. As they picked, the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the orchard. The air was thick with the sweet scent of apples, and the atmosphere felt charged with possibility. Brad paused for a moment, leaning against a sturdy tree trunk, and watched Lila as she expertly maneuvered around the branches, her laughter ringing like music in the air. There was something enchanting about her, something that made his heart race in a way that had nothing to do with the contest. "Hey, Lila," he called out, trying to distract himself from his thoughts. "How many do you have?" "Let's see." She counted her apples, her brow furrowing in concentration. "I think I'm at 12. "Ha, I'm at 15. Brad declared, puffing out his chest in mock bravado. "Looks like I'm winning." "Not for long," she shot back, her competitive spirit ignited. "I'm going to find the biggest apple in this orchard." As they continued their playful rivalry, Brad's attention was drawn to an old tree, its gnarled branches twisting like ancient fingers reaching for the sky. Something caught his eye. A glimmer of parchment peeking out from a hollow in the trunk. Curiosity piqued, he approached the tree, brushing aside the leaves that had gathered at its base. "Lila, come here," he called, his voice tinged with excitement. She bounded over, her eyes wide with intrigue. "What is it?" she asked, peering over his shoulder. Brad carefully extracted the parchment, its edges frayed and yellowed with age. "I think it is a map," he exclaimed, his heart racing at the thought of adventure. He unfolded it gently, revealing a hand-drawn illustration of the orchard, marked with strange symbols and an X that seemed to promise hidden treasure. Lila gasped, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "This is incredible. Do you think it is real?" "Only one way to find out," Brad replied, his adventurous spirit ignited. "We have to follow it." "Wait, what if it is a trap?" Lila teased, though the thrill in her voice betrayed her eagerness. "What if we end up in a haunted apple cellar? Then we'll just have to face the ghosts together," Brad said, a grin spreading across his face. "Besides, what's life without a little risk?" Lila rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress her smile. "All right, lead the way, brave adventurer." With the map clutched tightly in his hand, Brad felt a surge of determination. He traced the lines with his finger, trying to decipher the clues. "It looks like we need to head toward that grove over there," he said, pointing to a cluster of trees in the distance. "Let's go." They set off, the thrill of the unknown propelling them forward. The orchard felt alive, the rustling leaves whispering secrets as they ventured deeper into its embrace. With each step, the air grew thicker with anticipation, and Brad couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something extraordinary. As they reached the grove, the trees stood taller, their branches heavy with fruit. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the ground. Brad's heart raced as he scanned the area, searching for any sign of the treasure marked on the map. "Do you see anything?" Lila asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if afraid to disturb the magic of the moment. "Not yet," Brad replied, his brow furrowing in concentration. "But it has to be here somewhere." They began to search, moving carefully among the trees, their excitement palpable. With each apple they picked, they imagined what the treasure might be. Gold coins, ancient artifacts, or perhaps a hidden stash of the best apples in the orchard. Suddenly, Lila let out a gasp, her eyes wide with wonder. "Brad! Look!" She pointed to a large, twisted tree at the edge of the grove, its bark gnarled and dark. At its base, partially obscured by fallen leaves, was a small wooden chest, its surface weathered but intact. Brad's heart raced as they approached the chest, the thrill of discovery coursing through him. "This has to be it," he exclaimed. Chapter 4. Chapter 4. The treasure hunt begins. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the sprawling apple orchard. Brad and Lila stood side by side, their hearts racing with excitement and curiosity as they unfolded the treasure map they had discovered nestled within the gnarled roots of an ancient tree. The previous day had been a whirlwind of laughter and mishaps, from Brad's disastrous archery attempt to their whimsical hot air balloon ride. Now, With the scent of ripe apples wafting through the air, they were ready to embark on a new adventure. One that promised mystery and perhaps a hint of danger. "Can you believe we actually found this?" Brad exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm as he traced the faded ink on the map. "It's like something out of a storybook." Lila leaned in closer, her auburn curls catching the sunlight. "It's definitely a story worth telling," she replied, her voice laced with excitement. "But we need to figure out where to start. Look at this." She pointed to a small drawing of a tree with a heart carved into its trunk, the first clue etched in the margins of the map. Brad squinted at the map, his brow furrowing. "A heart. I wonder if it is one of those trees over there." He gestured toward a cluster of apple trees, their branches heavy with fruit. "Let's check it out." As they made their way through the orchard, the crunch of fallen leaves underfoot mingled with the sweet scent of apples, creating a symphony of sensory delights. The sun filtered through the leaves, casting playful shadows on the ground, and the distant sound of birds chirping added to the idyllic atmosphere. "Do you think the treasure is real?" Lila asked, her voice barely above a whisper as they approached the trees. "I mean, what if it is just a prank?" Brad shrugged, his adventurous spirit undeterred. "Even if it is just a story, it is an adventure worth having. Besides, what's life without a little mystery?" He grinned, his confidence infectious. They reached the first tree, a sturdy old apple tree with a thick trunk and branches that seemed to reach for the sky. Lila circled it, her fingers brushing against the rough bark. "This one looks promising," she said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Let's see if we can find that heart." Brad joined her, scanning the trunk for any signs of a carving. "I don't see anything," he said, disappointment creeping into his voice. "Maybe we should try another tree." Just as they were about to give up, Lila's fingers brushed against something smooth and cool. "Wait. Here." She pointed to a small heart carved into the bark, almost hidden among the knots and grooves. "This must be it." Brad's face lit up with excitement. "Great find, Lila. What's next?" He leaned closer to the map, eager to decipher the next clue. Lila squinted at the faded ink. "It says here, where the sun kisses the earth, beneath the boughs of the heart, lies the next step of your quest." "What do you think that means?" Brad scratched his head, contemplating the riddle. "Maybe it is a spot where the sun shines directly on the ground. We should look for a clearing or something. Or a spot where the branches create a sort of canopy," Lila suggested, her eyes scanning the orchard. "Let's keep moving." As they ventured deeper into the orchard, they stumbled upon a clearing bathed in sunlight, the golden rays illuminating the ground like a spotlight. The air was filled with the sweet scent of apples, and the sound of rustling leaves created a serene backdrop. "Here," Brad exclaimed, pointing to a spot beneath a large tree where the sunlight broke through the branches. "This must be it." They knelt down, brushing away the fallen leaves and twigs to reveal the earth beneath. Lila's heart raced as she dug her fingers into the soil, excitement bubbling within her. "What if we find something amazing?" she mused, her voice tinged with anticipation. "Or something really weird," Brad replied, chuckling. "Like a rusty old shoe or a squirrel's treasure trove." Lila laughed, but her fingers continued to dig, and soon they uncovered a small, weathered box, its surface covered in dirt and moss. "Look!" she exclaimed, her eyes wide with wonder. "We found something." Brad's breath caught in his throat as they carefully lifted the box from its resting place. It was surprisingly heavy, and the hinges creaked as they pried it open. Inside, they found a collection of trinkets. Old coins, a faded photograph of a couple smiling in front of the orchard, and a small, intricately carved wooden figure of a fox. "Wow," Brad breathed, picking up the photograph. "This must have belonged to someone who loved this place." Lila examined the wooden fox, her fingers tracing its delicate features. It's beautiful. I wonder what the story is behind all of this. Just then, a voice interrupted their reverie. Well, what do we have here? An old man appeared from behind a nearby tree, his weathered face breaking into a grin. He wore a straw hat and overalls, and his hands were calloused from years of working the land. You two look like you've stumbled upon something special. Hi, Brad said, slightly taken aback. We found this box. Do you know anything about it? The old man chuckled, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Name's Gus. I've been tending to this orchard for longer than I can remember. That box has been buried there for decades. It's part of the orchard's history. Lila's curiosity piqued. What do you mean? What's the story? Gus leaned against the tree, crossing his arms as he began to weave a tale. Years ago, this orchard was owned by a couple who loved each other dearly. They believed that love could be found in every apple, and they hid treasures throughout the orchard for those who dared to seek them. That box you found is just one of many. Brad and Lila exchanged excited glances, their imaginations ignited by the old man's words. So, there's more treasure? Brad asked, his voice filled with eagerness. Oh, plenty more, Gus replied, a knowing smile on his face. But it won't be easy. The clues are scattered, and you'll need to be clever to find them. The next one is hidden where the first apple fell. Lila's brow furrowed in thought. Where the first apple fell? Do you mean the original tree? Gus nodded. That's right. It's the oldest tree in the orchard, and it is said to hold the key to the next treasure. But beware, young adventurers. The orchard has its secrets, and not all who seek the treasure do so with good intentions. Brad felt a shiver run down his spine at the old man's words. Chapter 5. The Plane Ride. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the sprawling apple orchard as Brad and Lila emerged from their whimsical adventure. They had unearthed a treasure map, a relic of the orchard's storied past, and their hearts raced with the thrill of possibility. With laughter still echoing in their ears, they made their way to the small airstrip nearby, where a plane awaited to carry them to their next destination. The excitement of their journey lingered in the air, a sweet reminder of the unexpected joys they had shared. As they approached the plane, Brad felt a flutter of nerves in his stomach, not from the flight itself but from the anticipation of what lay ahead. Lila, ever the optimist, bounced ahead, her curls bouncing with each step. I can't wait to see what's next. Maybe we'll find another treasure or meet someone even more interesting than Gus. Her eyes sparkled with mischief, and Brad couldn't help but smile at her infectious enthusiasm. Or maybe we'll just watch a movie and eat peanuts, he replied, trying to temper her excitement with a dose of reality. But deep down, he shared her eagerness. The world was full of surprises, and he was ready to embrace them. They boarded the plane, a small but cozy aircraft that smelled faintly of leather and aviation fuel. The interior was a patchwork of colors, with bright blue seats and cheerful yellow overhead compartments. As they settled into their seats, Brad glanced around, taking in the eclectic mix of passengers. A magician in a sequined vest sat a few rows ahead, fiddling with a deck of cards, while a group of enthusiastic travelers chattered excitedly about their upcoming adventures. Look at that guy, Lila whispered, nodding toward the magician. I wonder if he can make our peanuts disappear. Brad chuckled, his gaze lingering on the magician's nimble fingers. Or maybe he'll turn them into something even better. As the plane taxied down the runway, Brad felt a rush of adrenaline. The engines roared to life, and the plane lifted off the ground, the world below shrinking into a patchwork of greens and browns. He glanced at Lila, who was pressed against the window, her eyes wide with wonder. It's beautiful up here, she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. It really is, Brad agreed, feeling a sense of freedom wash over him. The clouds drifted lazily by, and for a moment, all his worries seemed to fade away. He leaned back in his seat, allowing himself to relax as the plane soared higher. After a few minutes, the flight attendants began their service, offering snacks and drinks. Brad grabbed a small bag of peanuts, the familiar crinkle of the packaging bringing a wave of nostalgia. He tossed a few into his mouth, savoring the salty crunch. "So, what movie do you want to watch?" he asked Lila, who was still gazing out the window. "Something adventurous, of course. Maybe a treasure hunt," she replied, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Perfect. I'll find the remote." He leaned over to rummage through the seat pocket, but as he did, the plane hit a patch of turbulence. The sudden jolt sent him tumbling sideways, and before he could regain his balance, the bag of peanuts slipped from his grasp, scattering across the aisle like confetti. "Oh no," Lila gasped, her hands flying to her mouth as she watched the peanuts bounce and roll. The magician, who had been engrossed in his card tricks, looked up just in time to see the cascade of peanuts raining down upon him. "Ah, the magic of flight!" he exclaimed, his voice dripping with theatrical flair as he tried to catch the airborne snacks. Lila burst into laughter, and Brad couldn't help but join in, his cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry," he called out, trying to stifle his giggles. The magician, now adorned with a scattering of peanuts, gave a dramatic bow, his sequined vest glinting in the overhead lights. "Fear not, my friends. For I shall turn these peanuts into a masterpiece." He waved his hands dramatically, and the passengers erupted into laughter, the tension of the turbulence forgotten. Brad leaned back in his seat, shaking his head in disbelief. "I can't believe that just happened." Lila wiped tears of laughter from her eyes. "You have a talent for creating chaos, you know that." "Chaos is just another form of adventure," he replied, a grin spreading across his face. But beneath the humor, he felt a flicker of anxiety. What if their journey continued to be filled with mishaps? What if they never found the treasure? The thought gnawed at him, but he pushed it aside, determined to enjoy the moment. As the flight continued, the atmosphere lightened, and the passengers settled into a rhythm of chatter and laughter. Brad and Lila shared stories of their orchard adventure, embellishing the details for their captivated audience. The magician chimed in with his own tales of wonder, performing small tricks that left everyone in awe. But as the plane leveled out and the initial excitement faded, Brad found himself lost in thought. He glanced at Lila, who was animatedly discussing the treasure map with the group, her passion shining through. He admired her spirit, the way she embraced life with open arms. Yet, a part of him felt a pang of uncertainty. What if he couldn't keep up with her adventurous heart? What if he let her down? "Hey," Lila said suddenly, her voice cutting through his thoughts. She turned to him, her expression softening. "You okay?" "Yeah, just thinking," he replied, forcing a smile. "About the treasure, I guess." "Me too," she admitted, her gaze drifting to the window. "I can't help but wonder what we'll find. It feels like there's something special waiting for us. Or maybe it is just a bunch of old coins," he said, trying to lighten the mood. But deep down, he shared her hope. The idea of uncovering something extraordinary thrilled him, even if it was tinged with uncertainty. "Old coins can be special too," she countered, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Especially if they're from a pirate's hoard." "Now that would be something," he agreed, his heart racing at the thought. "But what if we don't find anything? What if it is just a wild goose chase?" Lila turned to him, her expression serious for a moment. "Then we'll have each other," Right. That's what matters. This adventure is about us, not just the treasure. Her words struck a chord within him, and he felt a warmth spread through his chest. You're right, he said softly, his gaze locking onto hers. I guess I just want to make sure I don't let you down. Brad, you could never let me down, she said, her voice steady and reassuring. You're the most adventurous person I know. Just be yourself, and we'll figure it out together. Chapter 6. Chapter 6. The Unexpected Twist. The plane touched down with a gentle thud, the wheels kissing the tarmac of a bustling airport. Brad and Lila exchanged excited glances, their hearts still racing from the whirlwind of their recent adventures. The treasure map they had discovered in the orchard had ignited a spark of curiosity and anticipation, and now they were on the brink of uncovering its secrets. As they gathered their belongings, Brad couldn't shake the feeling that this journey was about to take an unexpected turn. Can you believe it? Lila exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. We're finally here. I can't wait to see what the treasure is. Me neither, Brad replied, a grin spreading across his face. I just hope it is not another apple. I'm still getting over that last mishap. He chuckled, recalling the chaos of the archery contest and the hot air balloon ride that had followed. Lila rolled her eyes playfully. You're lucky I was there to save you from that neck incident. Besides, I think we've got a real adventure ahead of us. Let's go. They hurried through the airport, the air thick with the scent of coffee and the distant sound of excited chatter. As they stepped outside, the sun bathed them in warmth, and the vibrant colors of the amusement park loomed in the distance, beckoning them like a siren's call. Look at that. Lila pointed, her voice rising with excitement. It's even more amazing than I imagined. The amusement park was a kaleidoscope of colors, with towering roller coasters twisting and turning against the blue sky, and the joyful screams of riders echoing through the air. The scent of popcorn and cotton candy wafted toward them, mingling with the laughter of children and the cheerful music that played from various attractions. Brad felt a rush of adrenaline. Let's find the treasure, he said, his voice filled with determination. They made their way to the entrance, where a large sign read, "Welcome to Adventureland." As they stepped inside, the atmosphere enveloped them like a warm hug. Lila's eyes darted from one attraction to another, her excitement palpable. Where do we start? She asked, practically bouncing on her heels. Let's check the map, Brad suggested, pulling out the crumpled treasure map they had carefully preserved. The ink was faded, but the excitement of the hunt still pulsed through him. He traced his finger over the lines and symbols, his brow furrowing in concentration. It says here that the treasure is hidden near the Ferris wheel. Then that's where we're headed, Lila declared, grabbing his hand and pulling him toward the towering structure that loomed above them. As they approached the Ferris wheel, Brad couldn't help but notice the way Lila's face lit up with joy. Her laughter was infectious, and he found himself grinning as they joined the line. The wheel turned slowly, offering glimpses of the park from above, and he felt a flutter of something deeper than friendship stirring within him. Can you imagine what it would be like to see everything from up there? Lila mused, her eyes sparkling with wonder. We could spot the treasure from the sky. Or we could just get stuck at the top and have to yell for help, Brad joked, trying to lighten the moment. But as he looked at her, he felt a pang of seriousness. But really, I'm glad we're doing this together. Lila turned to him, her expression softening. Me too, Brad. This has been the best adventure yet. They climbed into one of the gondolas, and as the wheel began to ascend, Brad's heart raced. Not just from the height, but from the closeness of Lila beside him. The view was breathtaking, the park sprawling beneath them like a vibrant tapestry. He could see the roller coasters twisting and diving, the carousel spinning with laughter, and the food stalls bustling with families. "Look!" Lila pointed excitedly. "There's the pirate ship ride. We have to go on that next." "Absolutely," Brad agreed, but his mind was elsewhere. He was caught in the moment, the thrill of the ride, the warmth of Lila's presence, and the unspoken connection that seemed to grow stronger with every shared glance. As they reached the top, the gondola swayed gently, and for a brief moment, they were suspended in time. The world below faded away, and all that existed was the two of them, the sky stretching endlessly above, and the thrill of the unknown ahead. "Hey, Lila," Brad said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course," she replied, her gaze fixed on him, her expression curious. "I've been thinking a lot about this adventure," he began, his heart pounding. "About us. I know we're just friends, but..." Before he could finish, the gondola jolted, and they were suddenly descending. The moment shattered, and Brad felt a rush of frustration. He wanted to say more, to confess the feelings that had been bubbling beneath the surface, but the ride was over before he could gather his thoughts. As they stepped off, Lila's laughter filled the air again, and Brad felt the weight of his unspoken words hang between them. "That was amazing," she exclaimed, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Now, let's find the treasure." They hurried toward the designated spot on the map, weaving through the crowd, their hearts racing with anticipation. The path led them to a small, hidden alcove adorned with colorful flowers and whimsical decorations. In the center stood a large, ornate chest, its lid slightly ajar. "Is this it?" Lila gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. "The treasure." Brad approached the chest, his heart pounding in his chest. He lifted the lid, revealing a collection of shimmering tickets nestled inside. "Special access tickets," he exclaimed, pulling them out. "These grant us access to the park's most exclusive experiences." Lila's face fell slightly, confusion clouding her features. "Wait, that's it. I thought we'd find gold or something." Brad chuckled, the sound echoing in the quiet alcove. "I guess the real treasure was the adventure we had getting here. All the fun, the laughter, the memories we created along the way." Lila's expression softened, and she reached for his hand. "You're right. This has been incredible. But I still wish we had found something more tangible." "Maybe the real treasure is the experiences we share," Brad suggested, his heart racing as he looked into her eyes. "And the friendships we build." Lila smiled, her eyes sparkling with understanding. "You're right, Brad. I wouldn't trade this for anything." As they stood there, hand in hand, the world around them faded away. The laughter of children, the thrill of the rides, the scent of popcorn. It all blurred into the background. In that moment, Brad felt a shift, a connection that transcended friendship. Chapter 7. Chapter 7. Thrills and chills. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a golden hue over the sprawling amusement park. Laughter and screams mingled in the air, creating a symphony of joy that echoed through the vibrant landscape. Brad and Lila stood at the entrance, their hearts racing with excitement, the thrill of their treasure hunt still fresh in their minds. They had uncovered a special ticket that promised access to the park's most exclusive experiences, but little did they know that the real adventure was just beginning. "Can you believe we're finally here?" Brad exclaimed, his eyes wide with wonder as he took in the colorful rides and bustling crowds. The scent of popcorn and cotton candy wafted through the air, mingling with the distant sound of carnival music. "This place is incredible." Lila grinned, her enthusiasm infectious. "I know. It's like stepping into a dream. Where should we go first?" She twirled in place, her long hair catching the sunlight, creating a halo around her head. Brad's gaze darted around, landing on the towering roller coaster that twisted and turned against the blue sky. That one. He pointed, his voice rising with excitement. The thunderbolt. It looks insane. Lila's eyes sparkled with mischief. You're on. But I warn you, I'm not going easy on you. I'm going to scream louder than you. Challenge accepted. Brad laughed, his heart pounding not just from the thrill of the ride but from the playful banter that danced between them. They rushed toward the entrance, the world around them blurring into a kaleidoscope of colors. As they approached the ride, they noticed a group of kids gathered around, their faces painted with excitement. Among them was a daring girl with bright pink hair and a confident grin. She caught Brad's eye and raised an eyebrow, sizing him up. "Hey, you!" she called out, her voice cutting through the noise. "You look like you think you can handle the thunderbolt. Want to race me?" Brad's heart skipped a beat. He exchanged a glance with Lila, who was grinning from ear to ear, clearly enjoying the challenge. "Sure. What are the stakes?" he replied, trying to sound braver than he felt. "If I win, you have to buy me a funnel cake," she said, crossing her arms defiantly. "If you win, I'll buy you one." "Deal." Brad agreed, adrenaline surging through him. He turned to Lila, who was practically bouncing on her toes. "You're my witness." The girl, whose name he learned was Mia, led them to the front of the line, where they strapped themselves into the ride. The safety bar clicked into place, and Brad's stomach fluttered with a mix of excitement and fear. He glanced at Lila, who gave him an encouraging nod. "Just remember to scream," she shouted over the roar of the ride's machinery. As the roller coaster climbed higher, the world below shrank away, and the anticipation built like a pressure cooker. The view was breathtaking, the park sprawling beneath them like a vibrant tapestry. But before he could fully appreciate it, the coaster tipped over the edge, and they plummeted into a dizzying drop. Screams erupted from everyone around him, including his own. The wind whipped through his hair, and for a moment, all thoughts of competition vanished. It was pure exhilaration, a rush that filled him with a sense of freedom he hadn't felt in ages. They twisted and turned, the ride throwing them into loops that made his stomach churn. Lila's laughter rang out beside him, a sound that ignited something warm in his chest. He glanced at her, and their eyes met, a shared thrill passing between them. As the ride came to a screeching halt, Brad's heart raced, not just from the adrenaline but from the connection he felt with Lila. They stumbled off the ride, breathless and exhilarated. "Did you see that? I think I screamed louder than you," Lila teased, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Only because you were trying to impress me," he shot back, laughing. Mia joined them, her grin wide. "You guys are pretty good. But I still won the race." She held up her hands in victory, and Brad couldn't help but admire her spirit. All right, you win," he conceded, raising his hands in mock surrender. "Funnel cake it is." They made their way to the food stall, the scent of fried dough and powdered sugar enveloping them. As they waited in line, Brad felt a sense of camaraderie forming between them. Lila and Mia exchanged playful banter, their laughter blending seamlessly, and he felt a pang of something deeper. An awareness of how much he cherished these moments. "Here you go," the vendor said, handing them a massive funnel cake, its surface dusted with powdered sugar. "Wow, that's a monster," Lila exclaimed, her eyes wide. "Just like my victory," Mia chimed in, taking a generous bite. Brad chuckled, tearing off a piece and savoring the sweet, warm treat. "I'll get you next time, Mia. Just you wait. Next time," she smirked, her eyes glinting with mischief. "You're on." As they devoured the funnel cake, the trio wandered through the park, exploring everything from the dizzying spinning teacups to the whimsical carousel. Each ride brought new laughter and screams, and with every shared moment, Brad felt the bond between him and Lila deepen. But as the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the park, a sense of unease crept in. Brad noticed Lila's laughter fading slightly, her gaze drifting toward the horizon. He could sense something was on her mind, a tension that contrasted with the joy around them. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, concern lacing his voice. Lila turned to him, her expression softening. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just thinking about everything. This day has been amazing, but it is also a little overwhelming." Brad nodded, understanding her unspoken fears. "I get it. It's like we're on this wild ride, and I don't want it to end." She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Exactly. I don't want to lose this feeling. You know." Before he could respond, Mia interrupted, her voice bright and cheerful. "Hey, let's hit the water slide next. I heard it is the fastest one in the park." Lila's smile returned, and she nodded enthusiastically. "That sounds awesome." Brad felt a flicker of disappointment at the interruption, but he pushed it aside. "All right, let's do it." He took Lila's hand, and together they followed Mia through the throngs of people, the laughter and excitement swirling around them. As they climbed the stairs to the top of the slide, the air grew cooler, and the sound of rushing water filled their ears. Chapter 8. The Grand Finale. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the amusement park, Brad and Lila stood hand in hand, surrounded by their new friends. The day had been a whirlwind of laughter, screams, and unforgettable moments, but it was far from over. The air was thick with anticipation as families and thrill-seekers gathered in front of the grand stage, where the evening's fireworks show was about to begin. Earlier, they had raced through the park, their hearts pounding with adrenaline, but now, as the sky darkened, a different kind of excitement filled the air. The scent of popcorn and cotton candy wafted through the crowd, mingling with the crisp evening breeze. Brad could feel the energy buzzing around him, a palpable reminder of the joy they had shared throughout the day. "Can you believe we did all that?" Lila asked, her eyes sparkling with delight. She brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear, her cheeks still flushed from the thrill of the rides. "It feels like we've been on a roller coaster of our own." Brad chuckled, his heart swelling with affection for her. "Yeah, and I'm not just talking about the rides. This whole day has been a wild adventure." He glanced around at their friends. Mia, the daring girl who had challenged him to that unforgettable race. Gus, the quirky old farmer who had shared tales of the orchard. And the magician from the plain, who had somehow managed to find his way to the park. Each of them had added a unique flavor to their journey, and he felt a warmth in his chest, a sense of belonging that he hadn't realized he craved. As the first firework shot into the sky, bursting into a shower of brilliant colors, Brad's thoughts drifted back to the treasure map that had set everything in motion. It hadn't led them to gold or jewels, but rather to experiences that would last a lifetime. The laughter, the challenges, the friendships. They were the real treasures, and he couldn't help but feel grateful. "Look!" Lila exclaimed, pointing at the sky as another firework exploded into a dazzling display of reds and blues. "It's beautiful." Brad turned his gaze upward, captivated by the spectacle unfolding above them. The fireworks crackled and popped, lighting up the night sky like a canvas painted with joy. Each burst of color seemed to echo the laughter and excitement of the day, and he felt a surge of emotion welling up inside him. "Hey, Lila," he said, his voice barely rising above the sounds of the crowd, "can I tell you something?" She turned to him, her expression curious. "Of course. What's on your mind?" He hesitated for a moment, the weight of his thoughts pressing against his chest. "I've been thinking about everything we've done today, and, well, I just wanted to say that I'm really glad we did this together. You've made this adventure so much more special. Lila's eyes softened, and she smiled, a genuine warmth radiating from her. I feel the same way, Brad. I didn't know what to expect when we started this journey, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. As another firework lit up the sky, Brad felt a rush of courage. You know, I've always been a bit of a loner. I mean, I love adventures, but I've never really had someone to share them with. But with you, it feels different. It feels right. Lila's expression shifted, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. Brad, Before she could finish, a series of fireworks erupted in a dazzling display, momentarily drowning out her words. The crowd gasped in awe, and Brad's heart raced, not just from the spectacle above, but from the weight of what he was about to say. Lila, he pressed on, his voice steady despite the chaos around them, I think I'm starting to realize that this us might be more than just friendship. I mean, I really like you. Like, a lot. The moment hung in the air, suspended between them like the brilliant colors in the sky. Lila's eyes widened, and for a heartbeat, Brad feared he had misread the signs. But then, a smile broke across her face, lighting up her features more brightly than the fireworks above. I like you too, Brad, she said, her voice soft yet clear. I've been trying to figure out how to say it without ruining our adventure. But I can't help it. You make everything more fun. Relief washed over him, and he couldn't help but grin back at her. The tension that had built up between them melted away, replaced by a warmth that felt as bright as the fireworks exploding overhead. Just then, Mia bounded over, her energy infectious. You two lovebirds better not miss the finale. It's going to be epic. She grabbed their hands, pulling them closer to the stage where the grand finale was about to begin. As the last of the fireworks lit up the sky, Brad and Lila stood together, their fingers intertwined, hearts racing in sync with the rhythm of the explosions above. The colors danced in their eyes, reflecting the joy and excitement of the moment. But as the final firework burst into a shower of shimmering sparks, a sudden hush fell over the crowd. The air crackled with anticipation, and Brad felt a shiver run down his spine. Something was off. Did you feel that? He whispered to Lila, his brow furrowing as he scanned the crowd. Feel what? She asked, her gaze still fixed on the sky. Before he could respond, a loud crack echoed through the park, followed by a series of frantic screams. The crowd began to scatter, confusion and panic rippling through the throngs of people. Stay close. Brad shouted, instinctively pulling Lila closer to him. The joyous atmosphere had shifted in an instant, replaced by an undercurrent of fear. What's happening? Lila's voice trembled slightly, her eyes wide with concern. I don't know, but we need to get out of here. Brad replied, scanning the area for a safe exit. The laughter and excitement of the day felt like a distant memory, overshadowed by the chaos that was unfolding around them. As they maneuvered through the crowd, Brad's heart raced. Not just from the adrenaline of the moment, but from the realization that their adventure was far from over. The treasure they had found was not just the memories they had created, but the bond they had forged. And now, they would need to rely on that bond to navigate whatever lay ahead. Over there. Lila pointed to a nearby exit, her voice cutting through the panic. We can make it. With determination, they pushed through the throngs of people, their hands clasped tightly together. The sounds of chaos faded into the background as they focused on each other, the connection between them stronger than ever. Chapter 9. A new beginning. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over Willow Creek. Brad and Lila stood at the edge of the amusement park, their hearts still racing from the day's exhilarating adventures. They had soared through the skies on roller coasters, splashed through water slides, and laughed until their sides hurt. But as the last fireworks faded into the twilight, a new spark ignited within them. A desire to share their love for adventure with others. "Can you believe we actually did it?" Lila exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "We turned a treasure map into the best day ever." Brad chuckled, brushing a stray hair from his forehead. "And we didn't even get lost." "Well, not too lost, anyway." He glanced at her, his heart swelling with gratitude. "I couldn't have asked for a better partner in crime." As they walked through the park, the sounds of laughter and joy echoed around them, mingling with the sweet scent of cotton candy and popcorn. The vibrant colors of the park illuminated their path, but it was the warmth of their shared experiences that truly lit the way forward. "Hey, what if we did something like this again?" Lila suggested, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. "But, like, for everyone. A community adventure club." Brad's eyes widened, the idea taking root in his mind. "You mean, like, a place where people can come together to explore and have fun?" "That sounds amazing." "Exactly. We could organize hikes, workshops, and even treasure hunts. Imagine the stories we could create." Lila's hands danced in the air as she spoke, her passion infectious. Brad nodded, feeling a rush of excitement. "We could call it, the Adventure Collective, or something equally cool. We could inspire people to step out of their comfort zones." As they reached the park's exit, the last remnants of the fireworks show faded into the night sky. The stars began to twinkle above them, and the world felt full of possibilities. They found a quiet bench under a sprawling oak tree, the leaves whispering secrets in the gentle breeze. "Let's brainstorm ideas right now," Lila said, pulling out her phone. "We can jot down everything we think of." Brad leaned closer, their shoulders brushing, sending a thrill through him. "Okay, how about a hiking trip to the old Lookout Point? It's a great spot for stargazing." "Perfect. And we could do a creative workshop where people can learn to paint or write about their adventures," Lila added, her eyes gleaming with inspiration. As they continued to bounce ideas off each other, the air around them filled with laughter and excitement. Each suggestion brought them closer, their shared dreams weaving an invisible thread that bound them together. "Maybe we could even have a monthly adventure challenge," Brad proposed, his voice growing more animated. "Like, whoever completes the most adventures gets a prize." Lila laughed, her eyes sparkling. "I love it. We could make it a friendly competition. And we can include everyone. Families, kids, even pets." The thought of including the whole community ignited a fire within Brad. "This could really bring people together. We could create a sense of belonging, a place where everyone feels like they can be adventurous." Lila's expression softened, and she looked at him with a mix of admiration and affection. "You're right, Brad. It's not just about the adventures. It is about the connections we make along the way." For a moment, they sat in comfortable silence, the weight of their shared vision settling between them. Brad's heart raced, not just from the excitement of their plans but from the unspoken bond that was growing stronger with each passing moment. "Do you think we could really pull this off?" he asked, breaking the silence. "I mean, what if no one shows up?" Lila turned to him, her gaze steady and reassuring. "We won't know until we try. Besides, we have each other, and that's a great start. We can make it fun and inviting. People will want to join us." Brad smiled, feeling a surge of confidence. "You're right. Let's do it. Let's make this happen." As they began to outline their ideas, the world around them faded away. The sounds of the park dimmed, replaced by the rhythm of their laughter and the excitement of their shared dreams. They sketched out plans for hiking trips, creative workshops, and community events, their imaginations running wild. But as the night deepened, a flicker of doubt crept into Brad's mind. What if they failed? What if their dreams fell flat? He glanced at Lila, her face illuminated by the soft glow of her phone screen, and he felt a pang of fear. Would their friendship withstand the pressures of this new venture? Lila, he began, hesitating as he searched for the right words. What if? What if things don't go as planned? What if we can't get people to join us? She paused, her brow furrowing slightly. Brad, every adventure comes with risks. But that's what makes it exciting. We can't let fear hold us back. We'll learn and adapt as we go. Her confidence was infectious, but the doubt still lingered in the back of his mind. I just don't want to let you down, he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. Lila turned to him, her expression softening. You could never let me down. This is about us, and we're in this together. No matter what happens, we'll face it side by side. Her words wrapped around him like a warm blanket, easing the tension in his chest. He nodded, feeling a renewed sense of determination. Okay, let's do it. Let's make this adventure club a reality. As they continued to brainstorm, the night air filled with their laughter and excitement. They spoke of future adventures, of the people they would inspire, and the memories they would create. Each idea brought them closer, their shared vision solidifying the bond between them. But as the stars twinkled overhead, Brad couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. A new chapter awaited them, filled with challenges and triumphs, laughter and tears. And as they sat beneath the oak tree, he couldn't help but wonder what adventures lay ahead. Hours later, as they finally decided to call it a night, Brad felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. They had laid the groundwork for something special, something that could change their lives and the lives of others in Willow Creek. Let's meet tomorrow to finalize our plans, Lila said, her voice bright with enthusiasm. I can't wait to get started. Me too, Brad replied, his heart racing at the thought of their future adventures. This is going to be amazing. As they parted ways, Brad walked home under the starlit sky, his mind buzzing with ideas. He felt a sense of purpose he hadn't experienced before, a calling to inspire others to embrace their adventurous spirits. But as he reached his front porch, a shadow flickered. Chapter 10. Chapter 10. The Happy Ending. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over Willow Creek, Brad and Lila stood at the edge of the community park, excitement bubbling in their chests. Just days ago, they had been soaring through the sky in a hot air balloon, chasing adventure and laughter. Now, they were ready to lead their first official outing for the newly formed Adventure Club. The anticipation of their friends gathering, the thrill of the unknown, and the promise of new memories filled the air with an electric energy. Can you believe it is finally happening? Lila exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. She adjusted her colorful headband, a signature piece that always seemed to match her vibrant personality. We're actually going to inspire people to explore. Brad chuckled, his heart racing with a mix of nerves and excitement. I just hope we don't end up in another apple orchard, he joked, recalling their previous escapade. I'm not sure I can handle another treasure map. Lila laughed, the sound bright and infectious. No treasure maps today, I promise. Just good old-fashioned fun. She glanced at the gathering crowd, her expression shifting to one of determination. Okay, let's do this. As they approached their friends, a motley crew of familiar faces, Brad felt a rush of warmth. Mia, the daring girl from the amusement park, waved enthusiastically, her hair whipping in the gentle breeze. You guys ready to lead us into the wild? She called out, her voice full of playful challenge. Absolutely. Brad replied, his confidence growing. He glanced at Lila, who nodded encouragingly. Today's adventure is all about exploring the hidden gems of Willow Creek. We'll start with a hike through the nature trails and end with a picnic by the lake. The group cheered, their excitement palpable. Brad felt a swell of pride as he looked around at the eager faces. This was more than just a hike. It was a chance to create connections, to share laughter, and to build a community. He took a deep breath, inhaling the fresh scent of pine and earth, grounding himself in the moment. As they set off down the winding path, the sounds of nature enveloped them. The rustle of leaves, the distant chirping of birds, and the soft crunch of gravel beneath their feet. Lila walked beside him, her energy infectious as she animatedly pointed out various plants and flowers along the trail. "Did you know that this flower here is called a wild geranium?" she said, bending down to examine a cluster of delicate purple blooms. "It's supposed to bring good luck." Brad smiled, watching her with admiration. "You're like a walking encyclopedia of nature," he teased, nudging her playfully. "I'm just here for the snacks." "Speaking of snacks," Lila said, her eyes twinkling, "I packed a surprise for the picnic. You're going to love it." As they continued their hike, the group shared stories and laughter, the camaraderie growing stronger with each step. Brad felt a sense of belonging that he hadn't quite realized he was missing. The thrill of adventure was amplified by the warmth of friendship, and he couldn't help but glance at Lila, who seemed to radiate joy. After a while, they reached a clearing that opened up to a breathtaking view of the valley below. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. The sight left everyone momentarily speechless. "Wow," Mia breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "This is incredible." Brad felt a surge of pride as he looked at Lila, who was beaming with excitement. "This is what it is all about," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "Finding beauty in the world and sharing it with others." "Exactly," Lila replied, her enthusiasm contagious. "And we're just getting started." They settled down on a grassy patch, spreading out blankets and unpacking the picnic basket. Lila had outdone herself, filling it with an array of delicious treats. Sandwiches, fruit, and homemade cookies that smelled heavenly. As they dug in, the laughter and chatter resumed, creating a symphony of joy that echoed through the trees. "Okay, everyone," Brad announced, raising his sandwich in a mock toast. "Here's to new adventures and unforgettable memories." "To new adventures," the group echoed, their voices ringing out in unison. As they enjoyed their meal, Brad felt a sense of contentment wash over him. He glanced around at his friends, their faces lit with happiness, and he realized that this was what he had always wanted. A community, a place where he belonged. But as he looked at Lila, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his mind. He had been so focused on the adventure, on the fun, that he hadn't fully addressed the feelings that had been growing between them. "Hey, Lila," he said, his voice slightly hesitant. "Can I talk to you for a second?" She looked up, curiosity dancing in her eyes. "Sure. What's up?" Brad led her a few steps away from the group, the sounds of laughter fading into the background. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his words pressing against his chest. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened. Our adventures, the club, and us." Lila's expression shifted, a mix of surprise and anticipation. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've realized that these adventures have brought us closer, and I can't help but feel that there's something more between us," he confessed, his heart racing. "I care about you, Lila. A lot." Her eyes widened, and for a moment, silence hung between them, thick with unspoken emotions. Brad's heart pounded in his chest, a mix of hope and fear swirling within him. What if she didn't feel the same way? Finally, Lila smiled, her cheeks flushing slightly. "I've been feeling the same way, Brad. I just didn't know how to say it." Relief washed over him, and he couldn't help but grin. "Really? Really?" she confirmed, stepping closer. "I love our adventures, but I love spending time with you even more." In that moment, everything felt right. The world around them faded away, leaving just the two of them standing in the golden light of the setting sun. Brad reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers, and felt a warmth spread through him. "Then let's make a promise," he said, his voice steady. "No matter where our adventures take us, we'll always face them together." Lila nodded, her eyes shining with determination. Together. As they returned to the group, hand in hand, Brad felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was just the beginning of their journey, and he couldn't wait to see where it would lead them. The laughter and joy of their friends surrounded them, a reminder of the community they were building together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a final burst of color across the sky, Brad knew that this was a happy ending.